Hello and welcome to Freedom Watch, your daily dose of raw liberty, streaming online at foxnews.com. I'm your host, Judge Andrew Napolitano, here defending freedom, defending your natural rights, and defending your right to have a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution. It's a story we brought you first exclusively here on Freedom Watch. Back on April 8th of this year, Steve Bierfeld, who is the Director of Development for Campaign for Liberty, a grassroots organization devoted to maximum individual liberty and limited government and based in Washington, D.C., was detained by TSA agents at Lambert St. Louis International Airport for carrying $4,700 in cash. Yes, American dollars in cash. The TSA agents in question harassed and verbally attacked Steve, who defended himself and his rights by not answering the questions that these agents and officers incorrectly assumed that he would answer. All along, Steve managed to record the entire incident on his iPhone. Needless to say, the agents were wrong, Steve was right, and the ACLU filed a case in his behalf and, in essence, won. The ACLU dropped its case after the TSA clarified its policies regarding cash. Steve joins me now. Steve, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you.
Now, I have to confess that some of the $4,700 was from book sales for a book that I wrote. So I'm happy that I participated in this manifestation of liberty. But just to refresh our viewers' memory, what happened to you at the airport in St. Louis in April?
I was coming back from a conference Campaign for Liberty was holding in St. Louis. And as I was going through security, I had a metal cash box, basically like you'd have at a church carnival or bazaar, had about $4,700 in it. And as I went through the first level of the screener, they stopped the machine, called the supervisor over and said, we need to check this out. So they called me over to the side, asked me what was in the box, where I got the money, if he had to search it. I said, do you have to search it? Am I required to consent to a search? We went back and forth for about 2 or 3 minutes, finally said, you're coming with me, picked up the box of money, took me into a side room about 10 yards off the concourse, and that's where the real endeavor began.
Okay, and in that side room is where you managed, without them noticing it, to do something with your iPhone so that everything that they said to you and you said to them and they said to each other was recorded with remarkable clarity.
Yeah.
And the reason I know it was with remarkable clarity is because you brought the tape to me, and we listened to the tape first and then decided what to do with it.
Yeah.
And basically, what's on the tape? I know it's about 35 minutes long. We played it for our viewers here. It was one of the highest-rated shows we had the day we played the tape. But basically, what's on there?
As I was being led into the room, my thought was, this may be a bigger deal than originally I thought it was going to be. And I get taken into the room, and it's about a half hour or so of basically TSA agents, St. Louis police officers, unnamed agents or officers, talking with me, asking me questions, threatening to handcuff me, threatening to take me down to the FBI station, telling me that I don't need to understand the law, just answer their questions. If I got nothing to hide, just answer the questions. We can have drug enforcement figure this out if you're unwilling to answer the questions.
Why do you think, and you and I have talked about this and we don't have an answer, but why do you think they threatened to deliver you to drug enforcement agents? Was there any allegation that you were carrying anything that was in and of itself unlawful or drug related?
No, never directly. My only thought is maybe it had to do with them bluffing me. The thought was if they named some big agency, I'd back off and they'd say, okay, I don't want to go through this, just do whatever you want.
All right, and all of this was around the contents of the box. Did they ever open the box and see what was in it?
Yeah, the box went through security, so it went through the metal detector. And two, they did open the box. They saw that there was cash and that there were actually checks made out to Campaign for Liberty, so it wasn't that difficult.
It's obviously, and no one should have the slightest mistake about this, it's obviously not a crime to carry cash. It's not a crime to bring cash through a metal detector. It's not a crime to bring cash on an airplane, domestic airplane flight, and it's certainly not a crime to carry checks. So what did they tell you they were looking for? Or did they really want to know who paid you this cash and for what?
Well, they started asking me where I worked, what I did for a living, where I was going after I got home. At one point, an officer asked me for my telephone number, and I politely declined. And back and forth, my answer was simply, sir, am I required by law to tell you that? Please advise me as to my rights. You're a police officer. Please tell me what the law is. And I was told no, or we don't have to, or you don't need to understand the law, just answer the question.
Was there anything else in any carry-on bag you had that would have connected you with Campaign for Liberty, Congressman Ron Paul or any other movement that believes in maximum individual liberty and limited government?
There was. In my bag, actually, I had constitutions, pocket constitutions. I had Campaign for Liberty literature, and I did have some Ron Paul bumper stickers as well.
All right. So through some mutual friends, you were introduced to some litigators at the ACLU. They filed a case. The case is called Bierfeld versus Napolitano. Not me,
right.
Janet Napolitano, who, as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, is in charge of TSA. The lawsuit was filed. It has a happy ending. How does it end?
It does. It just actually finished about a week or two ago. ACLU dismissed the case without prejudice, which means we can reopen it if the TSA backs down. But basically, the TSA has said we are going to change the law. TSA has formally changed policy. I think if you file a Freedom of Information Act request, you could probably get it because they're unwilling to give it to you otherwise.
And that change will allow people to carry cash aboard planes without having to answer intrusive questions of federal agents about the source or the purpose of the cash.
Right. It specifically says in the wording that the TSA cannot unlawfully search and detain people for suspicious items that they deem suspicious. If the item is cash, if the item is a book, has nothing to do with security, the TSA cannot search and detain.
If the thing in and of itself is lawful, they can't detain you for having that lawful thing.
Right. They are not police officers.
Wow. So you enhance the constitutional protections of everybody in the country because these characters stopped you and you stood up to them.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much for doing that, and thanks for joining us, Steve Bierfeld, on Freedom Watch.
Thank you.